What's happening, friends list? Welcome to the Gamecast, episode 9, and we've got a hell of a show ahead of us. It's a special party chat episode where we take questions and topics surrounding the gaming zeitgeist from you, the listener, and hash it all out for your entertainment, including games we want to see bang. Yeah, you heard that right. The need of celebrities to legitimize gaming, or really the lack of need, and much, much more. Plus, we also discuss the big news of a studio near and dear to our hearts, Telltale Games, being revived, and why you should be both happy and a little skeptical about it at the same time. So, strap in and let's get to it.
Now the fun begins.
Punch it.
Stop! You violated the law.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Gamecast. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms. And, as always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Adam, Marshy Marsh, and Mike, Toy Soldier P-Pack. Guys, what's going on? Mike, let's start with you. What's good? What's going on? And, as always, what have you been playing? Even though I have an idea of what you've been playing.
Yeah, man, I've been good. The grind for Atlantic City we're in the thick of it now.
Mm-hmm.
We're about a week and a half out, so our team's been on every night. We've been getting good scrims in. Last night we played like an 11-game scrim against two different teams, so 22 maps in. So that's a pretty good night of practice there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been school, work, then grind. Although I have been playing some Arkham Asylum. I've been really enjoying that game on the 10th anniversary here on Sunday. I'm really enjoying playing through Arkham Asylum. And I'm actually throwing some Elder Scrolls Morrowind in there, too. I want to try to play through the entire main quest, something that I've never done yet. For someone who's such an Elder Scrolls fan, or who says I'm an Elder Scrolls fan, I really want to try to get through the whole main quest line.
When you're playing Elder Scrolls, how about let's go, since you're talking about Morrowind, what's your go-to build for an Elder Scrolls character? Especially, like, in Morrowind, in a very cut and dry RPG experience that game was comparative to later games. Like, what's your go-to build? What's your character look like?
Yeah, in Morrowind, for example, I would usually go with like a Red Guard or an Imperial, mainly being because they both have really good bonuses to, like, the Red Guard has fantastic combat bonuses. The Imperial's kind of a more well-rounded, like, he has some combat, like he has Longblade and he has light armor, but he has Mercantile and Speechcraft, so either one of those two, I don't really mess with the beast races all that much. And then I usually just go with, I usually build my own around combat, and I'll go strength and endurance as my two main attributes. And then from there, I pretty much just custom build it to where if I want to use long swords or short swords and what kind of armor I want to use, I just kind of build it around that.
Nice. And you said you've been playing Arkham Asylum too. What, comparative to, I know back in the day, I lent you my copy of Arkham City, and that was the one that you went through and like beat in like a day.
Yeah.
What, comparative to that game, since you're now playing the original, and I can't remember if you said, have you played the original? Have you played Asylum before?
No, this is my first playthrough, yeah.
What are you finding in that game, comparative to City, that's really standing out and making you really like? Because a lot of people jump in, say, how about, let's take Halo 3, for example. A lot of people, that was their first Halo game, being that the 360 was the first real big, obvious boom for Microsoft and the Xbox. A lot of people, for them, Halo 3 was their Halo experience. What to you, though, made you say, man, I really want to play Arkham Asylum over Arkham City, that you've already played before and know that's a guaranteed hit? Most people, really go for the best package possible, like I was saying, with Halo 3 that improved upon so many things that Halo 2 did in terms of a UI and, different user interfaces and different features and things like that are included.
Sure.
What, and quality of life fixes that Arkham City kind of expanded upon, what made you want to go back and do that, since they're both on Game Pass? What made you want to go with Asylum over City?
I mean, if I'm being honest with you, the reason why I wanted to play Asylum is I know it was the first in the trilogy for for number one. Number two, I've already played through City, so why would I go back and play through that?
True.
Number three, it had the smallest hard drive space, like using, so like it had the smallest thumbprint on my hard drive.
Right.
And number four, I've heard really good things about it, so that's kind of why I wanted to delve into it.
I mean, if you ask me personally, that's my favorite out of the series. I know critically, City has always reviewed the best, and a lot of people have held that in highest regard because it's the best blend of the whole trilogy. But to me, Asylum captures, and people always make fun of the Arkham series for being, all the reviewers and critics have always said, it makes you feel like Batman. It puts you are the Batman, you are this and that. It's tried and true, but that game to me really, as a longtime Batman fan in so many different mediums, specifically the comics, that truly put you in the world of Gotham, in that bleak, dim-lit, grimy world that Batman's always known for, more so to me than being the Batman. It always encompassed the feeling that you truly feel being in that world, not just as Batman, but with the engrossing cast that's around you. That, to me, that was always the bigger thing comparative. But that's awesome that you're liking it, man. I'm really happy that that's been your jumping in point this far along the path of Batman and this series comparative to City, and also Arkham Knight being on there, which, don't sleep on that game if you do end up, wanting to do a full playthrough of the series like I did kind of earlier this year. It's an excellent game. There's a lot of things with it. I know that I can already picture you saying, like, man, why'd they do that comparative to this? But overall, it is an excellent game, and I really hope you do stick with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm enjoying it thus far, so we'll see how it goes from there.
Nice. And as always, we got our other part of the trifecta, Adam Marshy Marsh. Adam, I know you've been playing Fire Emblem. Do you have anything to announce on this? Because I have a feeling you do.
I beat it.
He beat it! He beat it! He beat it. What's the time frame on it? Like, what's been your playthrough? I know you've been kind of going through with a fine-tooth comb, and I know you've also said you're like me. I'm notorious for starting a game and then, fuck, I got something on my phone I gotta do, or somebody calls me and I get taken away from the game and it sits there, so the timer goes on forever. But what's your ballpark on a time frame that it took you?
I think, like, actual hours played, I probably landed somewhere in the, 65 to 85 range.
Woo!
My rough estimate. And that's with, taking my time. I only really started rushing things towards the last 2 months in game.
Mm-hmm.
But, up until then, I was pretty thorough. I recruited almost all of the students to my house that were possible to recruit. Mm-hmm. I did my best to, get them all leveled up and promoted to master classes. And, I don't know. I gotta say, at the end of it all, I had an absolute blast. I probably will New Game Plus it at some point, but for now, I'm just gonna sit back and relish in my achievements.
I was gonna say,
Alexis and I had a great time with it.
Something like that is, with a game that deep, and that's how I usually feel after I kind of put a bow on large-scale experiences like that. Even Red Dead 2, last year, I remember beating it and being putting 50, I think it took me 50 hours, just through a normal playthrough, like a natural playthrough of it. I remember sitting there after being like, that's great, this was an amazing experience, an experience that I'm honestly going to treasure for a while because I love the story and this world that was built out around it. I'm good, though. I don't want to go and do Red Dead Online. I don't want to do anything. I've had my fill. Now I'm starting to get the itch again to go back to it and kind of do another playthrough, especially on Xbox One X now that I have one. But outside of that, man, games like that, these large-scale experiences, I feel that fatigue after, but not in a bad way, it's just relishing in that moment, like you said, of you really feel a sense of accomplishment, of not necessarily reaching the end, but looking back on the journey that got you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend it to anyone who's interested in that kind of game.
No, definitely. On my end, though, kind of been in a standstill with what I want to do, just knowing that we have some big games that I do want to, definitely sink my teeth into coming up here. And big in the sense of big on my scale in terms of anticipation. We got Blair Witch coming out on Friday. really excited to get into that this weekend. Really, really looking forward to it. A lot of previews that have come out. No reviews have come out yet since we're recording this right now, but a lot of previews are really positive on it, which is good. I'm not expecting the world, but I'm keeping my expectations low so that I'm shooting low to be then surprised, more or less. I think they could have something really special there because I've heard nothing but good things about Layers of Fear. The developer Bloober team that has done this game, they have experience, especially looking at, pulling up here right off the bat with the reviews for Layers of Fear. On Steam, it sits at a 9 out of 10. Games Radar gave it a 5 out of 5. It's a very well-liked game. My thing is, and what I'm hoping for with Blair Witch, I'm really hoping it's, I don't want to say a bite-sized, but I want it to be more of a toe in the water. And by that, I mean, I want them to give me an in-and-out experience of a more, maybe open-ended experience, but one that's maybe like a 6-hour thing, 5-hour thing,
Sure.
in and out. So then that builds a base, and that builds you don't have to do too much. Don't overshoot for what you're trying to do. Set a good base of this is what we can do with an IP like this, with a team like this, with Microsoft pushing us to get on Game Pass, to provide, I'm sure, some kind of funding, I would guess, since it is an exclusive right now to PC and Xbox. I would imagine Microsoft has some hand in that, at least on the publishing end. So, to me, I'm really excited about the experience. I think it'll be hopefully a good first step into bringing more experiences like that to a mainstream, because we're all horror game fans. I get major, like, Outlast and Alan Wake and even some Resident Evil 7 vibes with it. So I'm really excited for that. But like I was saying, I'm kind of in a standstill right now because I know that's on the horizon. Gears 5 the next week after that. Also, I want to play Control. And we're just starting to get into that fall season of games that there's just so much shit that you do want to play, and you got to kind of pick and choose what games you want to play now and, kind of set a schedule up. Being an adult sucks, especially working full time, and like you guys, or like Mike has, school and work on top of, doing his esports stuff, plus Adam with work and stuff. Like, you just don't have enough time. But my fiance and I have been playing, we kind of picked back up playing A Way Out, so we started playing through that again. Really fun game. It's not gripping me as much as I hoped it would because I was really high on the game leading up to its release last year, but I'm still enjoying my time with it. So just kind of trying to find small experiences to kind of last me over. But that's all I've been really doing. So hopefully next week we'll have a little more to talk about on, my thoughts on, I'm hoping to give you guys thoughts, full game thoughts, no spoilers obviously, on Blair Witch, my experiences on it. Hopefully my co-hosts will be able to at least get their hands on it and play it a little bit. But before we move into
play together,
I agree. So hopefully we can make that happen.
Goes.
Yeah, like we were just saying, there's only X amount of time in the day. But we'll figure something out, and hopefully we'll be able to play all together for that. If not, we'll get some impressions to you next week, that is, for sure. Before we jump into the meat of the show, just want to do some housekeeping. As always, we're pushing that giveaway we got going on. Do you like Xbox Game Pass? Chances are pretty high that you do if you're listening to this show, because God knows it's not for my voice, and I'm going to keep milking that part because I know it's true. But I'll give you a good reason to put up with it, because we're giving away a free 3-month subscription to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. That's right, Ultimate. That's both PC and console. To one lucky listener. Want to know how to win? Trick question, because I'm going to tell you anyway, stupid. Head on over to our Twitter account at GPGC Podcast and just do the following. Retweet the pinned tweet that's on our profile about the contest and follow our Twitter account. Boom. That's it. Easy enough, right? A link to the tweet will also be found in the description of this episode on every platform that you get it on. So clicking that will direct you right to it. So head on over to at GPGC Podcast and enter today. So let's head into the news. Big news story right now that's breaking today that I think really kind of hits with all of us is that we got, coming out of via Polygon, Telltale Games is being revived, which is kind of wild. I thought we were pretty much done with Telltale in terms of the whole legal situation that was going on with them and them ceasing right off the bat. I thought we were never going to see Telltale in the way that we are seeing it, at least being brought up. So let me get into it, and I'm going to read an excerpt. This comes, like I said, via Polygon by Colin Campbell. I'm going to read an excerpt of this, but I'll put a link to the article in the description of the podcast. Go over there, give it the click, give it the view, just so you can make sure Colin gets a view on that article. So, Telltale Games, which shut down last year, is being revived after its assets were purchased by a company called LCG Entertainment. The new company will sell some of Telltale's back catalog and will work on new games based on a few Telltale associated properties, as well as new licenses. In her interview with Polygon, Jamie Ottilie, I hope I said it, I always butcher names, who will now be heading the newly rebirthed Telltale Games alongside Brian Waddle, confirmed that the new business has back catalog rights to licensed properties The Wolf Among Us and Batman, as well as full rights to original Telltale games such as Puzzle Agents. He's quoted here saying, "There are some other expired licenses that we are looking at. The Walking Dead license, though, will not be included in this, obviously.
Thank God.
After being purchased by Skybound last year. And they do have rights and plans to move forward doing different things in that universe. Some employees from the original Telltale games will be offered freelance roles with full-time possibilities in the future." So, kind of just want to touch on this before we jump into our party chat segment, as this is a special party chat episode, as we do every other week. It's always great to see a positive story like this in the gaming industry pop up, especially with a situation like Telltale's that's gone down where, you know, the people really affected by dumb decisions made at a high corporate level were first and foremost, the people who are hurt are the developers, the staff that's a part of Telltale. And then second, the fans, the gamers out there who enjoy their games. So let me open it up real quick before we head into party chat. What are you guys most excited for and hoping for out of this rebirth? Mike, I'll open it up to you, man. I know what you're going to say, I have a feeling, because I think we're all thinking it.
I don't want to steal everyone's thunder.
No, doggy dog. I want to hear it, man. I want to hear it.
All right. I am so excited that The Wolf Among Us at least has a chance to come back. I think that I'm going to brush on it lightly, and I think because Adam's probably going to have similar sentiments that I have, so I'm going to just brush on it lightly, and then I'll let him, kind of hammer it home. I think all three of us agree that that is our favorite game in the series, if we're being honest. Like, when it comes to all of Telltale's entities, like, we played the Game of Thrones one and it was okay. Mm-hmm. And you've played the Batman game and you enjoyed that. But I think we all enjoyed The Wolf Among Us so very much, and it's so special. And it even made me go out and start buying the Fables comics to start reading up on the comics.
Hell yeah.
So I mean, it had a really profound impact on me, and I'm super excited for that. Adam, how do you feel about it?
That's a hard agree for me. I just felt like The Wolf Among Us was something, pretty fresh in terms of just the subject matter. Like, we had seen, obviously a Telltale game has that like indelible mark, like you're playing a Telltale game when you kind of like walk around environments, interact with objects, and it's kind of like a successor to the old like computer point and click adventures. You're making dialogue decisions, you're making choices that are going to be remembered on down the line. And like that formula was really great when it started with The Walking Dead, but applied to the world of The Wolf Among Us was just like, it was such a breath of fresh air. And the murder mystery that you're unwinding the whole time was really exciting. But I don't want to dial back my excitement for a moment and temper this announcement with a little bit of reality. I really would love it if another Among Us game got made, but I feel like there's a lot of excitement over the headline that's overlooking the fact that like these people who got laid off, who put their hearts into these games and made them what they are, they're being offered freelance positions with no benefits or guarantees.
And that's why I threw that in there. I was hoping one of you guys would pick up and kind of give this sentiment that you're going to.
I'm going to quote a tweet from Jason Schreier, who writes for Kotaku. Lots of excitement this morning over headlines saying that Telltale Games is back, but the reality is that some people who didn't actually work at Telltale Games have bought the rights to a name. Brands don't make video games. And he goes on to kind of say that, like, if he lost his job, got laid off, everyone at Kotaku got laid off, and then two random people bought the brand a year later, got hyped up to say, hey, Kotaku's back, that he'd be furious. And, like, that seems to be the reaction from people who are either, like, former Telltale devs or who are close to them or at least have industry experience. Like, being a contract worker in technology is, like, really insecure, and the situation that they're probably going to end up in is that you're going to work for a year as an independent contractor and be so in dread, I guess, over your health and your job security, and just being worn down and burnt out, not being paid what you're worth. And then you'll pretty much accept whatever job they offer you, even if you're already you already have that job.
Right.
This mostly paraphrasing a tweet from @BobServo. I'm very excited about the possibility of new things to come out of this, but I just feel like we have to not make the same mistakes when it comes to Telltale. Like, the games were made by people, not by a brand name.
No, absolutely. And especially, I really recommend, I would almost say it's required viewing, and I'll put it into the description of the episode whenever we do get it on each platform, but No Clip, Danny O'Dwyer's YouTube and content company that puts out crowdfunded video game documentaries. They did one on the Telltale situation. Really, it's focused on the people. He wanted to get accounts from the people who make these games, who were truly affected. And it's a beautifully shot and chilling. Any adjective you throw in there to really hit home the horrorness and the empty feeling you feel about these, because at the end of the day, people make games, like Adam was saying. This isn't an AI developing this game. This is a human being who has a family, who has kids, who has ambitions and dreams and goals of their own, who are dumping their heart into these games. And I think that does get lost a lot in the shuffle of the hype and hoopla that go around in the games industry and the news cycle, especially surrounding games. But it's really something, I definitely recommend watching that. It gives you a good idea into the zeitgeist of what was going on at that time, and really shows, kind of hits home at what Adam was saying on this. But it's exciting. It's for sure exciting, the overarching narrative of this. It's good to see the Telltale brand be brought back, because that does, to me, hold a lot of weight. But at the same time, we really do need to realize that, yeah, it's almost kind of a backhanded thing to me that it reads, hey, we're offering freelance opportunities to the people who originally made these games, and, you know, hopefully, knock on wood, a lot of them were able to land on their feet after Telltale closed down last year. And a lot of them, it does seem to be the case, at least via Twitter and different things like that I'm seeing. A few of them on the community team that I kept up with that I was interested in seeing how they played out. A lot of them did land on their feet and are still in the industry doing a lot of great things. It just kind of seems like a backhanded thing at the same time. But that being said, it is exciting. Hopefully we do get these properties that do come back, because like Mike and Adam was saying, A Wolf Among Us, my fiance and I made her play that with me earlier this year because it's one of my favorite games of all time. And like Mike said too, it made me want to go out and read the Fables comics. So it's an excellent game. We were all ecstatic whenever they finally announced that Season 2 was in development and was happening. And hopefully this can lead to one day maybe seeing that game have life and that season have life. So it's exciting, but we, like Adam said, keep in mind of maybe the behind the scenes inside baseball stuff of what's going on. So
curb your enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with Adam and you. I hope that obviously the freelance work that's offered, maybe it'll be something that would turn into, as long as the game's performed well,
right,
opportunities or whatever. But I think it's a harsh and grim reality in the game dev world that this is not always the case, and in a culture, especially in the gaming industry, that is so basically anti-workers' rights, if we're just being honest about it.
I mean, a lot of the entertainment business is at least starting to, you see, now the Screenwriters Guild and the unions that are coming in the entertainment industry, that's kind of starting to, these industries that not necessarily fall under the guidelines of your prototypical 9-to-5 job. It's good to see that some representation is starting to come in. Gaming, though, seems to just keep falling to the wayside of this, and I think that's because of still this old guard viewing gaming as it's not real entertainment, it's not real art. Well, gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that grosses just as much as movies. Like, I'd pump the brakes on that. So, to me, I hope that we keep hearing about unionization or representation for the gaming industry. Hell, for full-time alone, they still don't even have anything for their full-time staff members but hopefully something comes along that they can get some kind of safety net for things like where crunch is starting to be eliminated. We talk about that a lot, but where crunch is starting to be eliminated and just basic rights of decency to get some of these games done. Your work, if you're passionate about it, it's one thing, but your work should never be your life. You should never be defined by a paycheck. It should be about your passion behind that. So at the same time, everybody also needs to have that disconnect from their job. But
if
Absolutely.
you or someone you love is looking to organize your workplace in the games industry, check out @GameWorkers on Twitter. That's the Game Workers Unite Twitter page. They're doing a lot of things. They're moving in a lot of places, like all over the world, to get horizontal organization so people can get paid fairly and get the benefits that they need to just be treated for how they deserve. Irrespective of whether games succeed or fail, like, just the work that is being done should be compensated fairly.
100%. Totally agree. So, with that being said, we kind of ended that on a somber note. It is a good thing that Telltale is coming back, at least the IP that we love. From a consumer standpoint, that is great. But, it is a little bit of a somber thing when you realize the actual people who are affected by this at the end of the day, or were affected and continue to be affected by this. But on a brighter note, let's head into our Party Chat segment. And if you're new to the show, first-time listener, Party Chat, it's a segment where we talk to you. We take questions and topics from you, the listener, and we just talk it out. Anything regarding gaming, baby, we talk it out. It doesn't have to necessarily be Xbox. It doesn't necessarily have to be Microsoft or anything like that. It could be about gaming in general, just more about building that discussion around gaming. So this is where we talk to you and where you help guide the show and center the content that we create. So, moving in, first submission comes from Nero Automatic. Nero, thank you so much for writing in, but more importantly, thank you so much for listening. So, Nero says, I've heard you guys allude to the fact that you're Nakey Jakey fans, which is very true. I believe we all are, it's safe to say. Nakey Jakey fans before on the show. So, as a big fan of the Gamer Girl myself, I want to hear what 2 games you would want to bang. If you guys are familiar of the series that he does of X Game Should Bang X Game and Make This Game. So, he asks, what 2 games' gameplay mechanics would make a great game baby together? So, I'll throw this out there. I want to start with Adam. Adam, what do you think? What 2 game franchises do you think should bump uglies?
I gotta start off by saying, Nero Automatic, this is a great question. I love Nakey Jakey, and I love that series that he used to run. I wish he would keep doing more of it.
You're the one who really introduced us to him.
Like, Snake Boy Jacob is just... he put out some really good video essays. Always had something to say, but also extremely funny while he did it. I really liked his series on Halo, but I'm getting ahead of myself. If I could make an episode of X Games Should Bang, I'm gonna have to think about that for a second.
I can start here. A game that kind of the 2 games I kind of thought of like right away, and it was instantaneous. It would be like, do they have to be similar in genre or no?
No, absolutely not. It's literally, if this game has a great mechanic or different...
Like one that he did, for example, was like Shadow of the Colossus and Pokemon Snap, which are miles apart, but he found ways to like work some parts of each together into a game that would be cool.
Another example, Tomb Raider and Alien Isolation. He won the cinematic and kind of style of Tomb Raider, Uncharted that you see with the third-person action, meshed with almost a scientific horror or sci-fi horror genre of almost first-person where you're being hunted. Almost like Predator. So,
okay.
Yeah, just it could be anything, but different mechanics or tidbits from games that you think would be meshed great together.
Probably, like, there's 2 that come to mind, like 2 little babies that come to mind. Mm-hmm. For me, it's like Rainbow Six Rogue Sphere, and then you could actually just update it with Siege. So if it had like the gameplay and mechanics of Rainbow Six Rogue Sphere, but like the current graphics of Siege, that's probably one to me that would be amazing. But moreover, one that we covered in the Gamecast previous, Ninja Gaiden, and if you combine that with like Splinter Cell, I think that would be a really cool game. So you'd have the hack 'em slash 'em like battle that you get from Ninja Gaiden, but you also have the stealth factor and some of the other things that come along with Splinter Cell. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Adam, what do you think, man?
I'm going to be showing my biases a lot here, but I think a game like Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, okay, so you've got big open world, tons of like political intrigue and factional conflict and like conflicting interests going on in the world. You combine that and that sort of overarching challenge. You combine that with Pathologic 2's mind map and sort of like your bound mechanics. So if you haven't played Pathologic 2, the game's like quest log system, instead of being just like a list of quests and like, you know, here's what's going on, here's the last thing that happened, and here's where you need to go, it has this mind map, which is just like a web of related topics and circles, and like it's basically a loose notebook. Like if you were just jotting things down as you went around, like, oh, this was important, I talked to this person and they said this other guy did something awful, and then it'll show you like, oh, there's like an empty circle connected to that, so you're like, okay, maybe I need to follow up on this. So you go and talk to that guy and you're like, figure out that what really happened was this or that. Like Morrowind's quest journal was really cool because it wrote down important information without giving you just a marker to walk towards. You kind of had to like read it and see, you had to figure out what you had to do by reading it. It wasn't just go here. I think if you took that a step further and added the mind map from Pathologic 2, where you have like topics that are related to each other and connected visually, and also the bound mechanics where you have to like keep up with people that are close to you, that you have relationships with, and you have to periodically check in on them and either like protect them from threats from the outside or like get important information from them as the story develops. My God, it would be difficult because like Pathologic 2's stuff feels so handcrafted and it works because it's on a small scale. And to scale that up to the size of a game like Morrowind would be difficult. But that being said, I still think it would be, oh my God, what an open world experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One that comes to mind for me that I was it actually kind of sunk into my mind the other day. I'm really excited for Doom Eternal, so this is why it kind of hit with me. I'd like to see really kind of an experience like Red Dead Redemption. It could be either one or two. I typically tend to go with the first because I still hold that game very high in regards to my gaming lineage and, you know, games that I love and experience to this day. But take Red Dead's morality system that they had, an open world, you know, breath of fresh air that it offered in the way that you interact with that world, and add Doom, its aesthetic, but its speed to it. So imagine that you're basically trying to you're on Mars and, you know, the demon horde's coming or whatever, however you set it up, the aesthetic that Doom does have. But taking that, adding the open world and morality system of that, whether you're either freeing soldiers from the military that you're with and trying to restore balance, or you're helping the demons. You're being overtaken in decisions that you're making along that way to see whether you become the person who defeats hell and all of its minions, or you become the new devil, basically. So, I don't know why I thought about that the other day, but I'd love to see like an open world Doom. Almost, I think it was because I saw an article that was saying that Doom Eternal is going to be like a 20-hour experience now compared to the first, which was like 6 or 8 maybe. So I was kind of thinking, I'm like, man, that would be kind of sweet to see like an open world, open air Doom and how that would actually translate. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
About your choice, Doom?
Yeah, just out of curiosity. I mean, you could say it sucks by all means.
I think different strokes for different blokes type thing. If that's what you're into, man, that's cool too. I'm not saying I would be the biggest fan, but then again, I'm not the biggest fan of everything. So just because I'm not that fond of the idea doesn't mean that like it's a bad idea. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
I'm gonna come out and say I haven't actually played Doom 16. So like my frame of reference is limited. I think I might have played a little bit on your PSVR. Is that right?
That's not a good representation of that.
I didn't.
Next time I'm over at your crib, I'm bringing Doom 2016, and you're gonna play it.
Okay.
So I have it on
that being
PS4.
said,
You could borrow it.
Without the frame of reference of having played it, I still think, like, from what I've seen of it and what little I played PSVR and of Red Dead, I mean, I think it's an interesting idea which you put together.
Yeah, I mean, and the big thing about that is people often think of Doom, just in general, both the original Doom games and the newer one much more so because that's just the way that games have transcended and become more detailed. But Doom has a lot of lore and a lot of depth to it outside of just ripping and tearing. Like, there's so many codexes, there's so many...
The ripping and the tearing.
The ripping and the tearing, the wild women, the ripping and the tearing. There's so much lore and backstory and world building that goes into Doom that a lot of people don't realize or actually sit there and look through. Because you go around, there's so many collectibles within the newer Doom, at least, that you go around and you get that are these codex entries and backstories and different things like that, but it's like you're, with Doom 2016, you're already in an established world. The Doomslayer is there, he's living, he's breathing, he's been there, and you're being reawakened. So it's not like it's, oh, you're just kind of like the chosen one in any stereotypical game of, take for Oblivion, for example, where you just happen to be in the cell. You just happen to be there and you start with nothing. No, you're already an established badass motherfucker. So there's all this backstory and lore to it that, I don't know, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, I could see that kind of transcending, because really, there is enough lore that you could make a large-scale experience out of it. It doesn't have to be a quick campaign. Hell, even look at, like, anything, any FPS in general, like Halo, Gears, any kind of game that really is just, it may be multiplayer in mind, but their campaign, even like Overwatch, there's no campaign, but they have so much lore and world building built into it.
I remember in high school reading, I believe the book is called Masters of Doom. It's like a biography of the id Software guys, like when they first got started, like John Romero, John Carmack, Sandy Peterson, Tom Hall.
You must kill me.
Yeah, exactly.
John Romero.
Kind of all those guys, like how they got started making games all the way up through, like, where they are by the time the book was finished. And I think it was Tom Hall who wrote like the big ass design document for the original Doom. I think they called it the Doom Bible. And like there is a ton of stuff in there that's like definitely influenced. Like you can see its influence on the final game, but so much of it is just like thrown out, ignored, or like becomes irrelevant just because I think the design at the time was just like, hey, we're gonna focus on the gameplay and like we've got this aesthetic that's cool, but I believe John Carmack was quoted as saying, like, plot in a video game is like plot in a porno. It's expected to be there, but, like, it doesn't mean a whole lot, which maybe at the time was true, but, like, I feel like we've definitely come a long way since then, and it would be cool to see.
For instance, like Gears and Halo, like, you're going to tell me plot doesn't matter? Yeah, pick on
Absolutely, yeah. So, like, it'd be cool to see them, like, revisit some of that original material and reintegrate it, bring it to the forefront.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited for Doom Eternal. I think it'll be a great game, and if they got 20 hours of content just in a regular playthrough, I'm curious to see how much, like I was talking about, they flesh out that lore and world building within it. So, but thank you, Nero, for that question. Let's move into our next one from Ethan D. Hey guys, with new footage of Hideo Kojima's wild new game Death Stranding being shown at Gamescom that focuses on some of the various likenesses used from high-profile celebrities, it got me thinking, does the appearance of big-name celebrities like Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077 and Norman Reedus in Death Stranding help solidify gaming as a legitimate entertainment medium in mass pop culture? Or does gaming even need solidifying? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Mike, what are you thinking? Do you think gaming even needs solidifying, or does having these big names in it actually help connect that maybe disconnect that's going on between mass pop culture and at least the overall overarching zeitgeist that's going on?
Yeah, for me, it's a situation where it's like, I guess if your idea of legitimacy or legitimizing games is the fact that they can afford to pay appearance fees for people and stars like this,
Mm-hmm.
then sure, by all means, it legitimizes it. But for me, I wouldn't really care if there were no pop culture icons involved in gaming, because to me, gaming, while it's part of pop culture now,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a different branch for me even growing up. Like, it was just like, Hollywood and all this other stuff was over here, but gaming was kind of by itself.
Mm-hmm.
The meshing and blending of it's kind of weird to me. It's not something that I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like I said, I mean, it's not like Keanu Reeves did it out of goodwill and he just thought Cyberpunk 2077 was awesome and that he wanted to showcase it.
Right.
And he got paid to go to it. So it's like, if that's your definition of legitimizing it, then by all means, sure, it does. In my eyes, I don't think it legitimizes it all. Does it make it cool? Like, is it cool? Yeah, absolutely. But I thought gaming was like legitimized way further back. Probably more with like how big esports have gotten and the prize pools have gotten is
Mm-hmm.
something to me that makes it a legitimate endeavor and makes it like a legit thing in culture nowadays. Because you got people like Ninja who stream and are such big streamers, Dr. Disrespect, all those guys that stream and create content, and it's kind of manifested itself into its own little media format.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that legitimizes it more so than Keanu Reeves rolling out of bed and showing up to showcase Cyberpunk 2077.
No, definitely. I see the avenue you're taking, and I think we've had kind of this discussion before at various points, and I think we both agree with the same thing, that I personally don't believe video games need legitimizing in pop culture. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that has some of the biggest IP and entertainment staples in it, let alone just being video games. I think we both agree on the sentiment of it and the main point of it. I think we're just taking different directions at it, because I don't think celebrities do necessarily legitimize it, but I think it does. I think it does help. I think it does from a pop culture standpoint, because now I think because you mostly look at it like you were saying, you're looking at it from an esports perspective where you don't think, and I agree, that you don't think it needs legitimizing, because look at the payouts that we're getting right now with esports. Look at the money that streamers are making alone on playing competitive games, and bringing attention to that aspect of not only the gaming industry but also pairing in with professional sports, being somebody who works in the sports and athletics industry. At the same time, though, I look at it more. I view more gaming. I do more of my gaming from, I don't want to say a cinematic approach, but I play more single player experiences than you do. I think it's safe to say, at least right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So I look at it as more, I look forward. I play a ton of games that do have esports elements. Halo. I do play Fortnite here and there, but I'm a big Siege player. I play CSGO. Like, there are games but I really get out of bed looking forward to now, at least in my perspective, for these cinematic experiences. Like I was saying, Blair Witch, Gears, even to an extent. I'm looking forward to that. But Outer Worlds, I keep fucking that up because I want to play Outer Wilds because that's supposedly a great game. But Red Dead, and like Ethan D was saying here with Keanu Reeves and Cyberpunk and Norman Reedus, I think that just only helps, but I don't think that makes it that isn't like, damn, there's the stamp. And even Keanu was saying that in an interview he did after the E3 press conference that he showed up to, Xbox's briefing for Cyberpunk. Somebody kind of brought up this question in a way that he even said, like, I don't think video games need legitimizing. He's like, I look at it now as just another project. Like, my agent, like, he was basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, like, his agent's just bringing it to him saying, like, hey, this is a project, and he didn't really realize it was for a video game, if I remember correctly, but, like, his agent bringing it to him, like, here's another project that came across. I think they're looking for kind of almost a lead role or a major side character that is almost lead presence with it, from what it sounds like, with that Johnny Silverhand's going to be in Cyberpunk. But it's just viewed as another role. But that's even before Keanu. Like, take Keanu out of that. That was before even Keanu was even, like, so I just don't think we're saying the same thing. I think we're just coming at different perspectives of it, that gaming was legitimized before Keanu, before Norman Reedus, or you could really, I guess, say with the new Death Stranding stuff, Norman Reedus, or, whatever with him pissing and growing a fucking mushroom or something in it. It's wild. Check it out. But before that, it's gaming legitimized itself just on what gaming is, an interactive medium that just keeps getting more engrossing by the day in any aspect, esports, cinematics, gameplay, whatever. Like, it just keeps getting more engrossing and more captivating on a multitude of different directions that affords itself to be able to now bring in people like Keanu and celebrities into it. Adam, what do you think, man?
I think I'm in the camp that, like, it's cool because you're gonna get a lot of eyes on it who might not have been on it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think those eyes are going to really stay on gaming as a whole. They might say, "Oh, look, this game has Keanu Reeves in it.
Mm-hmm.
I know Keanu. He was in these movies that I saw," and they might look at that game. But I think if their attention wasn't already on games before then their attention is going to end with that one appearance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Right.
and you also gotta think too, comparative to 10 years ago, hell, even comparative to 5 years ago, gaming's blown up so much. Like, gaming's so accessible right now. Like, everybody really is a gamer thanks to mobile games, experiences like fucking Bandersnatch on Netflix even. Like, interactive experiences are just so casual and so accessible from anything, from your smartphone, from your browser now. Hell, you can play Diablo in your browser right now. So, like, not to cut you off, but you gotta think, like, there's so many gamers as it is already. Like, you don't have to reach that far to find a gamer anymore, comparative to like it was in 1999 or the early 2000s.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's basically my take on it. Like, it's cool. I do like to see it. I like to see it when celebrities from other mediums get involved in ours and they're like, "Hey, I want to work on something here," not just because it's like a game and I like games, but because it's a project I believe in and I think it's got good vision.
Mm-hmm.
I like good games.
I like good games.
PS3 make the best game.
That's basically all I had to say.
No, definitely. I totally agree. Like I said to Mike, and I think you're included, we're all going at this we're meeting at the same conclusion, just taking different angles at it, I think. That we all just agree gaming doesn't legitimize gaming. It's nice, it's cool, but it's not the end all be all. Gaming would keep chugging whether fucking Keanu Reeves, which I love Keanu, I love John Wick, I'm excited for Bill and Ted 3, and I'm excited for him because I'm really excited for Cyberpunk, so I'm excited to see him in it and see the performance he gives. But at the same time, like, even before he was announced as Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk, I still was going to pre-order and play Cyberpunk because it just looks awesome. Like, it just doesn't matter. So I'm in the latter half of that question, saying gaming just doesn't even need solidifying, and I think we all agree to that. So, but thank you, Ethan, for writing in. Hopefully that was a good answer to your question. Up next, we got Nathan J. He is writing in saying, "What's up, crew? What's your most anticipated upcoming title that doesn't have a release date? This could be a title that has already been announced or one that hasn't officially been announced but you know is inevitably going to happen, i.e. Marvel Spider-Man 2 on PS4, which recently Insomniac Games, now officially becoming a Sony first party, Sony purchasing Insomniac Games because of a multitude of reasons, but recently being Spider-Man PS4 is a huge, massive success that now you just for sure know that Spider-Man 2 is coming because that has franchise written all over it. But anyways, just kind of clarifying on that. But what do you guys think? I'm just gonna, I think, state the obvious right off the bat. Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, we don't know when it's coming. It's for sure coming. I would imagine, within the first 3 years of next gen, I think would be a safe bet. I think because obviously we'll see Starfield, which is up there for me too, but I think we'll see that within the first 3 years, maybe. It doesn't have a release date on it, but to me, that's kind of like the holy grail to it. Mike, what do you think, man?
I echo your sentiment, obviously, with Elder Scrolls 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wildly excited for that. Halo Infinite for me is a huge one. I'm super
Absolutely.
stoked for that. I want to see what 343 does to rebound from the disasters that were MCC, and I mean Halo 5 wasn't a disaster. It's
And
just
technically,
different.
we don't have a release date on Halo Infinite. We just have
Yeah,
holiday 2020, so I don't want to fucking hear it, Nathan J. Thank you for writing in. Please keep listening to us, like, share, subscribe, all that shit.
so I feel that feel Halo Infinite's a big one. But with the news today that broke, I'm curious to see if Telltale, well, whatever they're going to be called now, is going to be able to get their shit together and get devs that worked on previous projects, and to see if they're going to be able to put out a Wolf Among Us season 2, and what that looks like, because it hasn't been confirmed that they were making it, but I mean they purchased the rights, so it's like, why would you go out and spend the money on something if you weren't going to make it? I mean, it could happen. It's not my money. I'm not saying they might not just waste it, but The Wolf Among Us season 2 would be a fantastic thing to see. I don't know. Is there a release date on Warcraft 3 remastered yet?
No, that's a great.
Every time I get on Blizzard, man, I see that it's coming soon, and then they just remilk the cash cow that's WoW Classic, and it's like, is it actually coming, or are you just stringing us along? Kind of like, when Telltale was going through their shit, you kind of heard this rumbling, and it wound up being true that they really didn't have any plans to make Wolf Among Us Season 2. They were just trying to tread water and get people to invest in their games so they could finish what they were making.
Yeah.
So, I hope, obviously Blizzard's not going through that type of financial hardship, but, at the same time, I'm sick of seeing WoW expansions and going back to class. Make the fucking game. Just make it. I'm sick of it. Just make it so I can play it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, 100%. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy.
Oh, and not to cut you off, but Halo Reach for PC and just MCC on PC in general, or Halo Reach for MCC. Just I think that'll be kind of cool to get to play that too. Not that I was the biggest Reach fan ever, but it would be nice. It would be nice to be able to play every single Halo game, because after Reach, that's it, because Halo 1, 2, 3, 3 ODST, 4, and Reach will be on there, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, it goes Reach then 4, but you get it, you know what I mean?
Right, absolutely. Adam, what are you thinking, my man?
So I've got 3 games I want to talk about. One in the very near term, I'm pretty sure. One in the mid, one in the long, and those two might be interchangeable because I'm less sure about those. But in the short term, I'm real hyped for the final segment of Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which is the King of Cards expansion. Which is
coming very soon per today, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, they just put out a big press release. Not only that, but they announced another, I think it's a mobile game called Shovel Knight Dig.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that. That looks amazing. But looking on their press kit right now, King of Cards is still a TBD release date. So I think it's coming soon, but we still don't know. So I think it qualifies. I'm really looking forward to that. Shovel Knight, all of the content that has come out free for that game ever since it was released is just amazing. I love all the extra campaigns.
No, definitely.
I think Spectre of Torment was probably my favorite.
That's actually one game that has released on Switch that's like an indie that I can't, everybody's always said, you gotta play this. You have to play Shovel Knight. That's the one that I have yet to bite on. And not that I know I would love it. It's just, it's kind of like Undertale. People are like, you gotta play Undertale. You just gotta play it. It's amazing. It's on Switch. You have no excuse now to play it. I don't know why. It's just one that I haven't. I need to actually, sit down and play it. But I think the reason why, just kind of thinking out loud now, I think I told myself, I gotta wait for the newest, Treasure Trove to come out that comes with, everything, that I don't have to kind of go back and piecemeal it together. But, no.
I'm not sure about the Switch release, but I know on Steam, once you bought the game base, even before Treasure Trove came out, everything was updated for free.
But see, isn't that, and I think, and just adding on to this, from what I remember too, because they were a Kickstarter, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Wasn't it that people originally kickstarted this game a fucking decade ago? They're still getting this content drip,
Yeah, it was a while ago. They got incredible funding, and I'm guessing they're still running off of a combination. Well, I don't know what their burn rate is, but the fact that they funded so well is probably the reason why all this stuff is free updates and not paid DLC.
No, absolutely. I mean, the game keeps selling because it keeps coming out on more platforms and they keep putting out new content for it. And even now, like you were saying, like it's still free updates that you're getting on PC and whatnot, but like it's getting re-released on new systems that come out. So it's still yet again making more money.
And now on the Wii U,
and now with Dig coming out too, and them saying, hey, we're doing, this project, we're still committed to Shovel Knight, we're still committed to making sure the newest release comes out, but we also have this on the horizon, almost like the Elder Scrolls type thing, like, we know we have this, but just so you know, we are still working on this. It's still there, there's something new coming.
I think it felt a bit like the Fallout Shelter announcement, along with, like, that game launched when they showed a bunch of stuff for Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And I think this game is going to be way more fun than Fallout Shelter.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah.
But yeah, definitely recommend Shovel Knight. I bounced off of the Plague Knight campaign, but the main campaign and the Spectre Knight campaign were really fun.
Nice. I'll have to jump into that. I really have to jump into that.
Absolutely. Moving on to the mid to late term. I don't know, like, obviously they don't have release dates, so I don't know what kind of timeline we're looking at, but 2 games that I would really like to see that don't have release dates are, 1, the extra campaigns for Pathologic 2 being the Bachelor's route and the Changelings route. Mm-hmm. I'm going to beat the Pathologic drum on this show as often as possible.
You're damn right. Hey, man, it's also, like we said before, I think it was actually on our initial episode, our first pilot episode on MCC, Pathologic 2 coming to Game Pass eventually. It's coming to Xbox and it's going to be on Game Pass. So, fucking pound that drum, man. Beat it out. Clap them cheeks, baby.
Yeah.
Chap and cleeks, baby. Chap and cleeks.
Unfortunately, the game had kind of like a lukewarm launch, and the future of the studio is like in flux right now. Mm-hmm. I know Lord Mandalore on YouTube, Mandalore Gaming, I think might be his YouTube channel. He put out a review of it that was much anticipated because a bunch of people saw his review of Classic HD and were like, oh, there's going to be a sequel. Okay, we're going to look out for that. And his review of both games was excellent. And I think with the renewed attentions being pushed towards it, there might be signs of life for Ice Pick Lodge, who are the developers of Pathologic. So I would really be looking forward to seeing the Bachelor and the Changelings campaign made for that. Because I know they were so much fun in the original.
Where's their studio from?
They are from...
European, right?
They're Russian. I don't know what city they're from. They might be from Moskva. But
actually, that makes a lot of sense now, thinking back of us playing the original. That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Very Russian game.
Do you remember when I bought the board game and I had it shipped from Moscow? And my mom received the package and was like, Adam, what is this?
Adam, should I call the police? Should I worry that if I tear a little bit of this package, it's just gonna blow up? But shout out to our Russian viewers, because I believe there is one. There's one. It's 1% or something on our metrics. We have one Asian Russian viewer. So
nice.
Oh, cool. Thanks for watching. Or listening, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to my third one real quick, because we've been on this topic for a while. Also, another thing that's who knows when it's going to come out. It's even less concrete than an actual commercially made game. But the Skywind and Skyblivion full conversion mods that are attempting to remake Morrowind and Oblivion, 2 different projects, but they're attempting to remake Morrowind and Oblivion in the Skyrim engine. These are huge undertakings. It's being done by fans for free. All you have to do is own both of the games that are being, you have to own Morrowind and Skyrim to play Skywind, Oblivion and Skyrim to play Skyblivion. I think I said that all correctly.
No, you're good. We got there eventually.
You just have to own both of the original games to play these mods, and they're completely built from the ground up. They're going to be as faithful to the originals as possible while still bringing kind of the gameplay, the graphics, and the quality of life into a modern age. I am so hyped to play those. Mm-hmm. Morrowind and Oblivion are some of my favorite games of all time, and we've even joked around about auditioning for voice acting on this project. I think I think Sky Oblivion is not taking new voice actors, but Skywind might be.
Yeah.
Skywind is supposedly taking it.
And there's other, like, you can volunteer if you're out there and you're like a technical, like a 3D modeling artist, or if you're a writer, if you're a voice actor or a programmer or anything like that. Like, they are still taking volunteers to work on this project. So if that's your thing, go check them out, and you can be a part of something really awesome.
And also, too, I'm pulling up their YouTube channel right now. They do dev live streams. So,
cool.
And specifically, I'm talking. I should have prefaced this or preface this. Sky Oblivion. I'm sure the Skywind team does as well, but the Sky Oblivion team does dev streams. I know I sent that over to you guys a couple of days ago. The one they did recently was remaking the Blackwood region. And it's cool. They just sit there. They have specifically on the stream, right there on their overlay, like basically, no, stop asking. There's no estimated time for release. But it's impressive, man. I mean, some of the gameplay that they do have during their community live streams that give you updates on the project, it's wild. Like, it is beautiful what they're creating. It's very true to the source material. And you could tell that, most importantly, they have the blessing. One, they have the blessing from Bethesda. This isn't a project that they're going to have to worry about because it's a mod, for all intents and purposes.
But that also means that Bethesda has no interest in remastering either of these games.
Right.
But they have to realize that also when it comes to Bethesda not caring.
Right, which is true.
At this point, I don't even want Bethesda to remaster these games.
No. At this point, just keep your hands off it. But it's good to have. It's nice knowing that Bethesda gave them their blessing. That you don't have to worry about a cease and desist. You don't have to worry about anything like that.
Yeah, they're not Nintendo.
Right, that this game
because
is
they're still going to get their money, right? Like, if you, like, say you're a Skyrim fan and you've never played Morrowind or Oblivion and you haven't had a reason to because you can't get past the, like, the graphics or anything of that nature, with the updated gameplay, you're still going to have to buy Morrowind and Oblivion to get the mod, so...
Right, and Skyrim. You have to have Skyrim.
Yeah.
So they're still making money off of it, but more so than that, you could tell that this is being made first and foremost by fans. Like, and I mean that because you're seeing passion ooze out of this. You're seeing the polish. The polish is there because of the passion that this is somebody who's putting in this, that they love this original IP. They loved Oblivion. They loved Morrowind. You could just tell by what they're trying to do with this game because it's so detailed and so perfect that they're also just wanting you to play it. They just want you to experience it. They want more people to experience this Elder Scrolls generation. Like, they want you to experience this specific sect of Elder Scrolls because it's so important to them. And that's just really reassuring, knowing that it's not like from Bethesda. And me personally, I'm not as down as many as, a lot of long-term fans are with Bethesda. I still find a lot of great things out of their company, both from the publishing end and their game studio. But it isn't a cash grab. It isn't a quick, oh yeah, we're just putting we're just upscaling it to 1080 or 4K and, that's it. No new textures. They're just kind of upscaled on it. No, from the ground up. No, this is from the ground up assets that fans are making. So the love and care is in there. So, but just my 2 cents on it. But thank you to Nathan J for that question. That's always a fun one. Oh, just want to throw in there too, 2 other games I'm really excited for. Obviously, Spider-Man 2, just piggybacking off of what Nathan said, but Breath of the Wild 2, it's confirmed, or the sequel, it's confirmed, it's happening, it's there. We don't know what it's about, but it is happening. I'm really, 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 really excited for that because that's one of my favorite games of all time, the original, at least. Yeah, so just something to keep an eye out there for that. Moving along, next up, from Not Spider-Man 16, writing in again. Thank you, Not Spider-Man 16, for writing in again and listening.
Dedicated listener.
Hell yeah, man. We need as much of you guys as we can in terms of the dedication. That's what I'm looking for, baby. So, NSM16, as Mike liked to call him the other day, a few episodes ago, asks, do you feel there's a genre of game that is reaching the level of oversaturation? Example, MMOs in the mid to late 2000s. And he also prefaces this saying, also, no Battle Royale. We already know that. So, the Battle Royale is the soft toss. What other game genre do you think is kind of nearing that? Oh, another one. Or even a game mode, I guess you could say, too. Because Battle Royale could technically just be a game mode of a game, but Battle Royale seem to just be a genre in itself anymore. What do you guys think of just a genre or a style of game that you're just seeing oversaturation with? Me personally, I think it's a looter shooter. I think we see far too much of that with Destiny and even Borderlands coming out again, because I think Borderlands 3, while I'm excited that people like it, it's kind of like the World of Warcraft classic. Like, I'm just not necessarily into MMOs. I've given time to WoW before. I've leveled characters back in the day. I just don't necessarily feel that there's a need for it right now. But at the same time, I'm being proved wrong, because there was 1.1 million people watching on Twitch the other day. And, that's... somebody's excited for that. So I'm happy that that's there for that person. But to me, like, the new MMO is the looter shooter. And I'm just shocked that we're seeing a Borderlands 3 this late, considering they're like the grandfather of the looter shooter. But to me, it's the Destinies, it's the Warframes almost, it's the Divisions, it's these just games of services that I feel are reaching a point that it's almost like, okay, yeah, we get it. Games of service, these platforms, like, we get it. They're popular. We don't necessarily need another one. We have fucking 50 million of them. But hey,
like, between the Division and then Ghost Recon Wildlands again, like, you know what I mean?
Right, and I think Ubisoft's the most guilty of all this, because all of their games, to an extent, hell, even Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it's a great game, great single player game, but it's built as a game of service. So I guess really mine, if it's a genre, it's looter shooter. But if it's like a style of game, I would say it's the game as a service. We're seeing so much of that, to an extent of not necessarily, it's great to have single player experiences that keep getting DLCs, but more or less, it's we're launching bare bones and we'll just drip feed you content multiplayer games. So what do you guys think? I'll open it up to you.
I honestly agree with Travis. I think the Schluter genre would have been one of my first choices. I think something else that comes to mind, and I don't know if this is really about oversaturation, about like comparative to other genres, the proportion of these games that it would take to oversaturate a market is lower, just because of the nature of the games that they are. I'm talking about like 100-hour open world adventures. Like, any game that lasts that long, no matter what like the gameplay is like, I just think there can sometimes feel like there's way too many of them out there. I can't get to them all. Please stop making them. Like, I like a short experience that's self-contained, and like big worlds you can lose yourself in are great, but there's like so many of them. There's not a lot of variety in between them, and a lot of the times they tend to be like rather empty in terms of like spatially and what content they have.
And it's time. I mean, that's like we said before. I mean, the age demographic of gamers, the biggest age demographic of gamers is 18 to 35, and you would imagine 18 to 35 people have, prior main commitments like work, school, whatever, that there's only X amount of time in a day to be able to commit to those. And that was always my biggest criticism with Red Dead Redemption 2, as much as I fucking loved it and I loved that world that they built, was that it took me 50 hours just to play through the game. And that was just a normal playthrough.
Not only that, but like, for you to like dump it and pick it back up a couple days later, it's very overwhelming to try to get back in the swing of like, what am I doing?
And that's how I am with, like, every now and then I'll revisit Skyrim, just because I want to get that Elder Scrolls fix on. And Skyrim's just the most accessible one to be able to do that. I can pull it up on my Switch or my Xbox or whatever. But it's like that, where I pick up this hugely dense game of basically infinite quests that I could do, but I'll take half an hour just being like, oh fuck, what did I have to do? Where did I leave off? What quest am I doing? Not to interrupt you, Adam. Please continue, but that's kind of chiming in with that.
No, that's pretty much all I had to say. Just like any open world game that's like takes that much time, like if you're gonna make one, it had better be really good and kind of stand out among the crowd. Don't just give me like a huge pit of side content with like a really flimsy main quest line, Like, I don't know. I've played Morrowind, I've played Oblivion, I've played Breath of the Wild.
Mhm.
I've played a bunch of open world games. Like, give me something. At least you should have a good reason for your open world game. Like there was a time when open world was a big buzzword that would just like move copies off of shelves.
Mhm.
But it also takes a huge investment to make a game on that kind of scale. So like I think there's starting to be diminishing returns on continuing to make that kind of game. Like you can't get away with an okay or just like a mediocre experience.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. So
Tossing it over to Mike next. What do you think?
I mean, there are those out there who aren't going to be surprised by my answer at all.
Oh,
You guys
boy,
are not going to be surprised. I am sick of the MOBA like meta, whether it be League of Legends, Overwatch, Siege, all these, and like even with the Call of Duties recently, just picking a certain hero that has certain perks and having counters to those is just like, it's not so much the fact that there's counters to them, but I'm just sick of having these abilities that are like crutches. Like, give me arena-based gameplay where in Siege, instead of having all these cool abilities with like Ashe and these other characters, just give me a gun, give everyone grenades, and let them go at it in a symmetrical or asymmetrical map if you choose,
Mhm.
and like let the best mind and gun skill work. And I know that there's ways that these MOBA like hero, I guess the best way to describe it is like hero type games
Mhm.
that kind of like overlap with FPS or other games. Like obviously there's mental game behind all these things that we're doing.
Mhm.
Like that's all cool, that's all well and good, and it does have some, like there is some point of intelligence to these games, and I'm not saying that they're just like brainless or moronic,
Right.
but I'm just sick of playing them. Like I'm sick of seeing them. I'm sick of everyone ripping off of each other. And COD's like COD is like used to be kind of like a trailblazer, didn't really monkey see monkey do, and
Mhm.
now like with Overwatch, with Heroes of the Storm, Dota, League of Legends, like I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. Stop it. Like let's move on to greener pastures. And I agree with the battle royale sentiment. Dr. Disrespect put out a good tweet today that says Fortnite's so bad, it's time to move on. I agree with Dr. Disrespect. And I kind of tweeted this, and if you follow me on Twitter, you've read it. But I'm sick of game devs like being creative just for creation's sake.
Mhm.
Like I get that game devs want to create something new and exciting, and that's part of their excitement. But we have games like H1Z1, PUBG, and Fortnite that are good for like a patch, and then they just get ruined because like these devs are trying to be like flashy and make something new and cool. It's like, why are you not just going with what works and expanding on it, doing balances with the weapons to even it out a little more? And if
Mhm.
you're going to create something new, just make new maps. Like that's all you really need to do. Make a new map or make changes to the map and make the map better.
So you're
But I
saying, so what you're saying is, just to kind of build off that, you're saying keep the foundation the same, build a good base, but just kind of build on top of that. And then if you need to
Yeah.
change, like if you want to add, it's like a house. Build a good foundation. Don't just bust out the walls and blow it all up just to put an addition on. Build a house first, build the base, build a strong structure, then add on to it. And if you want to change it, that's great. Change small things, but don't change the base of it.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel. Like these games that I described, namely H1Z1 and Fortnite, to be honest, had really good bases.
Mhm.
They were solid games. Like while I wasn't the biggest fan of Fortnite because of the building aspect, it's not something like I hated the game and I never wanted to play it.
Mhm.
It's just a
Hey,
situation where like
we played for a couple months. You and I. That was
Yeah.
like the one game that we would pick up on because it's great to the extent of it's a very, at least in its premise and the straightforwardness of it it's very accessible. Anybody can play it on basically any device. It's very optimized for each device. Now the learning curve once you get into it is steep with the building and whatnot, but it is a game that it's almost like Apex Legends or whatever battle royale for the most part. Anybody can drop in, and the base learning curve of it is very simple. It's
Right.
all you got. Anybody, like, you're deep into esports. You're very much committed to the esports scene. That's your calling with gaming for the most part, or at least the major one of it. So you're very good with many first-person, third-person, any kind of shooters or competitive game, you kind of stand out in our group, much so. Where Adam and I could just jump into Apex or Fortnite with you, and we could all play a role into doing something. Kind of like, even in Overwatch or whatever. It's games like that that are good, that to an extent, that we're able to do that. It's very accessible to anybody to jump into, but what you're saying, I do agree with, 100%.
Yeah, it's just like, there's no need to get wild and flashy when you have something that's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't create for creation's sake. Just use what's working. Everyone's enjoying it. And people, like, in Fortnite were only complaining about the balance or lack thereof of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Epic's always adding new weapons, always doing this, always doing that. And it's like, dude, like, you spend more time on making new skins that the kids are spending a ton of money on for no reason, because that's how you're making your money. Stop making stupid updates that don't need to be there.
No,
and I mean, like
100%.
when we played Fortnite, or me and Adam played a little bit of PUBG together, or like I played H1Z1 with Luke, like, we had so much fun with these different games, but they all had a brief shelf life, unfortunately, for us, because they just changed too much and made it not fun anymore. So, I mean, it's a long-winded answer. We kind of got off tangent there, but I mean, that's my complete answer.
No, definitely. Just to kind of cap it off, I want to get your opinion on this, just because you're such a long-term Halo fan, and it's always been the biggest thing I've always appreciated about Halo from a competitive standpoint was its fairness. You all start off with the same loadout. There's items across the map, but they're on timers, and it's the arena-based combat, but everybody starts with the same items, the same weapons, everything. It's completely fair right off the bat. You all start on the same foot. I'm all for adding creativeness to it, but why doesn't, and Fortnite does a little bit, but with how much of a bolstering esports scene that these games have, these battle royales and things like that have, why don't they have why isn't there, when we go into Fortnite and say we want to, squad up, why isn't there a competitive mode where it's literally you drop in, there's only these type of weapons and everything, like Halo with your competitive, playlist, only these are here. Like, and then there's social game types where it's, we're trying rockets only, or we're doing whatever else. We're doing zany things that this weapon does 300% damage comparative to what it does before, or you know what I'm saying? Like, where you could try those extra things, like vehicles in Halo, like that you could have scorpion tanks and different things like that in there to affect it, but it doesn't mess with the meta of the competitive game, where there is a strict guideline of competitive. This is what the competitive rule set is, and yeah, we'll tweak it here and there, but this is the set guidelines that people know what they're working towards, or the parameter they're playing in.
I mean, that's what MLG did back with Halo and Gears of War and Shadowrun, and every game they've ever had that's a competitive game, they were always there to, like, tell you, like, and you just knew what to expect. And that's the one thing these Battle Royale games are struggling from, is they're creating things, they're changing things, and they're not giving these competitors a solid base to stand on that they know what's going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about it anyway.
No, definitely. But moving on to our last question, finally, we have a submission from WimpyT16. He says, or she, we're inclusive here, whatever you are.
I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Big Popeye fan, I guess, WimpyT says, yo, GPGC. As a music nerd, my question is simple. What game/games has your favorite soundtrack/soundtracks? What do you guys think? I think it's safe to say, Ocarina of Time probably has one of the best soundtracks in terms of how much music, and even Majora's Mask, I know Adam's a big fan of that game. I feel like that's probably a common answer between all of us. What else do you guys think?
I am a fan of any game that does a really good job of setting ambience and feelings with the music. So Halo is one to me that does a really good job. The one thing Gears didn't really utilize is music in the gameplay, but they used eerie sounds and other things that were pretty cool. The Elder Scrolls games are pretty solid. Some questionable things coming out about the creator of the music there, but I think he's done a fantastic job in those game series setting the ambience and setting the theme for the games. Another game that pops out to me is like Age of Empires 2, going way back.
Yeah.
does a really good job with the music. Rainbow Six Rogue Spear uses music in a way that's really good. Diablo's like the classic Blizzard games are
Basically
very good.
Blizzard's classics had just bangers. Like every song had a pretty strong melody where you could like be humming it while you were playing, and anytime you hear it start, it just sends you right back.
Yeah, how do you feel about it, Adam?
I definitely agree with everything that's been said so far. All great picks. For me, I'm gonna go with 2 games that recently stuck out to me.
Pathologic?
Yeah. Pathologic's Pathologic Classic HD is like, imagine Half-Life, but it was composed by Genghis Khan. 2 is like less industrial and experimental, a little bit more consistently like tribal and ambient and stuff. They're both really cool soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with Persona 5 as one of my big ones.
Great pick.
Okay.
So many good tracks in that game, like driving melodies. They always match the theme. I love how when you're going to raid a palace, I think Life Will Change starts playing, and even if you get into a fight with one of the shadows, the same theme just keeps playing. It's like you're rushing to the finish, and even if you get into a fight, it's like the same song's going to keep playing. It's unbroken action, just like anticipating that big boss fight at the end. And in addition to Persona 5, I gotta give props to Lena Raine, who composed Celeste.
Oh, great!
It won awards at the Game Awards this year for
a
soundtrack, and it's definitely deserved.
No, definitely, man. Kind of piggybacking off of that, Breath of the Wild was very, very. How do I want to put it? It doesn't stand out because it isn't a soundtrack that's very bombastic and very.
It was incredibly understated.
It was very, but it fit. It fit the ambiance and the aesthetic that game was going to a T. One of my favorite things about that game, whenever it was leading up to the release, it was after the big blowout at E3 2016. People went back after like they noticed during all the gameplay that was shown on Nintendo Treehouse and whatnot, and they noticed like, oh, they're at the Temple of Time. Oh, they're at these major iconic places. That they even said, like, a lot of the developers and whatnot said during, their showcase of it, the soundtrack is very mellow. There's, only little hints and whatnot, but if you listen closely, you're going to find a lot of things that really sound back to previous games and that long-term fans are going to love. And that's whenever afterwards you saw all of these content creators pulling out, like, when they're at the Temple of Time, if you speed it up, the Ocarina of Time, Temple of Time song is played. It's just so slowed down and so broken apart to fit that broken aesthetic of the game. This almost like post-apocalyptic in a sense of, that feeling of the world's just torn apart, but you still see hints of a previous life. And that's what, like, when it's broken down, if you've played the game, I'm sure you've seen it. But if you haven't, go back and just look up videos of it, of a sped-up version of the Temple of Time song in Breath of the Wild. It really gives you an idea of how that soundtrack and that score was composed. Another game, obviously, Oblivion. I think that has one of the best. It's one of those soundtracks that I could put on when I'm either, if I'm working on a project at work or if I'm working on a project outside, like our podcast here, if I'm writing some articles for publications or something like that, I'll always that's one that always ends up in the mix. What's another one? Skyrim's is actually really good. I really liked Skyrim's. I like that Nordic feel to it. What else? Oh, there was one more. Oh, God of War 2018. You really got to be in a mood to listen to it because it's kind of dark, but it's very powering and it's very emotional comparative to a lot of games that kind of come out. And yeah, you have these very John Williams, Star Wars almost feeling bombastic, but in a sense, that God of War 2018, what I will always love about that game, it's a story of redemption, but not in a traditional sense. It's a redemption of family, and it's a redemption of connections that really, I think that score emphasizes. It's a rekindling of a father and son. That score really emphasizes that, and I think that's something that's lost in a lot of games that come out that, we have, and this is no shot at Kendrick Lamar or whatever, but Kendrick Lamar is producing the soundtrack, and, it's dope, man, and it fits so well, but, yeah, it fits so well, but what does it emphasize in the gameplay that you're doing? Like, what helps tell the story of the game that you're playing? P-Pack and I will every now and then play the like, yo, what NHL soundtrack was this game on? Or this song on?
Oh yeah.
So like, but there's great soundtracks on that end. I totally agree, but it never was like, oh, that defined that game for me. That's really what defined, because at the end of the day, it was the gameplay and it was the feeling of playing NHL and being able to pull off playing at Sidney Crosby that helped define that what you're doing in that game. Whereas God of War, and I think that just as more games become cinematic and immersive, that really hone in on that, and that feeling of the bombastic drums that you get, and the kind of uprising, and kind of the feeling of Kratos really bringing down all the demons that he has within him, that they're always fighting to come back up. That soundtrack really kind of emphasized that. So definitely one I recommend. But you got to be in a mood to it because it is kind of dark. So, Well, with that being said, that's going to wrap up our questions for this week. So, guys, starting with Mike, where can people find you so that we can continue these dialogues and have, fans reach out to us and just kind of keep going on with what we talked about today?
Absolutely, yeah. My Twitter is @ToySoldier, and the second O is an X. That's @ToySxLDIER. LL Toy Soldier LL on Xbox One, Xbox Live, and then MP_Toy Soldier on Twitch.
Nice. Adam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AC_Marshy. That's AC_MARSHY.
Nice. And as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travlis, on most internet platforms, including Twitter @Travlis_. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming, which hopefully, if we don't end up doing a group playthrough of Blair Witch, hopefully this weekend I will get on Twitch and I will stream that. Look out on our Twitter @GPGC Podcast. For that, I may end up doing a stream of that, so keep an eye out for that. But you can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Travlis_, same as the Twitter. And also, you can find me on Xbox Live, just regular Travlis, TRAVLESS, no underscore. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to put a bow on our episode for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you just for being a part of this growing community. And as always, keep gaming.